Okay. Hopefully I can get through this. Um, okay. Um, fix my piercings. Make sure we're good. Okay. So, I've had so many paranormal experiences. Like, I've had so many paranormal experiences. And I've had paranormal and psychic experiences since I was like 3. Like, it's very disturbing, but I knew where the family cat was when he'd passed away when I was 3. Like, I kept telling my mom he was underneath the bed, and she would go in there with me. We would look underneath the bed together, and she'd be like, no, he's not. And I would just look at her and be like, yes, he is. And it turns out that he was underneath the house. Underneath where... Did y'all see that? It fucking what is it? Flickered, anyway. But it turns out that he was underneath the bed of, like, the area where the bed was underneath the house. And, I knew that, and I don't know how I knew that. It's not like I was going down there. It's not like the underneath of the house is like a big area or anything, you know. It's a crawl space like underneath most houses. It's not very large. Which is why we didn't know that he's down there, because there's no way to really see down there. So there's just really no way I would have known. So that's that. And then my very first seeing something was I do not know how old I was, but I was as tall as a doorknob. I remember like reaching up, like it was with this hand, but I remember like reaching up, grabbing, I had to go to the bathroom. The bathroom is literally like kitty corner to my door. So me being in the little spare room, opened up the door at the end of the hallway and like poked my head out and was like looking like right. And at the very like I guess you'd say like the beginning of like the living room, at the end of the hall there's a chair, and that's typically where my grandma sits. And my grandma's still alive, thank the Lord. And so I know that it wasn't her. She's sound asleep. I can hear her like breathing in the next room over. Can hear my grandpa. They both they're happily married, but it's just something that happens when you're older. You just want to sleep in your own bed, and they have their own rooms pretty much. So it's like the spare room, my grandma's room. I can hear her. I can hear my grandpa in the next room over, and the bathroom is literally like right there. So there's 4 doors like right here, and then somewhat of a long hallway, and then I can see this glowing woman sitting in the chair, and she's staring like out the front windows, and it's just like glowing blue in the living room, and she's like this whitish bluish like UV light colored being, and she's sitting there, and it creeps me out so much. But I was so happy that she did not turn her head to look at me. It was not my grandma, because my grandma has never had hair that long, at least in my lifetime. And I just remember seeing this woman being so terrified. I closed the door, got back in bed, and went to sleep. And I remember just like laying there being just like, oh my gosh, that just happened. But I just went to sleep so fast. I tried, oh my goodness. And apparently I did get up and I did tell my grandma about it. I do not remember that. Maybe just like a flicker of it, but I was with my grandma so often that it was like, you know, I'm very, very close to my grandparents. My mom and my grandparents and all of us have a really, really good relationship, and I'm so grateful for that. Growing up, I'm just very, 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 very close to my family, so it's like, about the woman, I definitely think that it was my grandma, my great grandma. I think that she'd passed just before my grandma's firstborn was born. So I think that she had known of the pregnancy, but I don't think that, sorry, there's just been like a lot of random cars coming around. And like somebody was looking in our mailbox earlier, and it's, I don't know. High alert. Man, it sucks. It's like, you think your neighbors are good people, and then you see them looking in your mailbox, and you're like, okay then, that's a breach of privacy. That's not fucking cool. Anyway, those are my two first, like, real paranormal psychic experiences. Growing up, I did not like nighttime at all because me and my mom had a 1 bedroom apartment and we had like a king size bed until I was like, what? Like 8, 7 or 8. And then we got our own beds, but they were still next to each other. Still, I hated being alone and just the nighttime, like it keeps flickering. That's so creepy. My eyes would just like make up things and I would see things and it would be really scary and I was so little, I had no idea, and I have always had just the worst, awfulest, most terrible nightmares. And like straight up, the chair's creaking, if you can probably can hear that. Like my double chin. But I just like, okay, so brief history about my life. When I was really, really little, like toddler, all that, is when we came to live here. Before that, we kind of bounced around with like good friends and all that, and then we lived with my grandparents for a while. And then like, yeah, toddler age, like 3, we moved in here. My parents ended up splitting like, I don't know, 2002. So we moved in like 98, moved out 2002, and then we moved back in 2013. So between those areas, I like living here. I haven't had that many experiences. I've definitely had some. Like, one time I got extremely sick. I'm I'm very sick just in general. I have gastroparesis and dysautonomia and POTS and all these crazy things. So I'm up during the night sick every single night. I don't throw up that often, thank the Lord, because I have access to medication that helps stop it. And most normal, like, prescriptions and all that tend to make me sicker. So, like, teas and things like that really help calm my stomach down. So I have to be, like, really herbal and, like, naturopath and stuff like that. And just, like, really listen to my body. But I gotten really, really sick. And I was holding my hair dryer above my stomach because that's, like, one of the only things that helps. And I was starting to, like, fall asleep, and I was drifting in and out, and I think I had set up, and I don't do this, like, very often. I had set up my blow dryer to, like, be pointed at me, and I had fallen asleep for a second, and I typically don't like falling asleep with my hair dryer on because that scares me, because that's an extreme fire hazard, that's an extreme burn hazard. It's bad news bears all around. So I try not to, like, do that. And the one time that I felt like a hand, like, brush back my hairs, and it was like a very cold hand, and, like, it was such a loving touch, and it was like, oh my gosh, it was such a loving touch, and it was definitely, like, one of my angels looking out for me. Oh my gosh, I can't, like, me cutting my hair, that video got me, like, 20 subscribers, so thank you for subscribing if you did. Comment down below if paranormal something is, ooh, look at that, paranormal is what you're interested in. I love anything to do with the paranormal. I just do. I grew up with it. Like, it's second nature to me. I grew up seeing things. I grew up having things in my dreams. Quit it! No. Stop it. Crazy cat. But yeah. Those are my first experiences, and not my last experience. I think I've had other things happen since then, but, like, as far as, really? Anyway, gotta go.